I quit my tech job last summer and I started thinking, what would my life look like if I actually stopped using the internet, getting rid of my cell phone, selling my computer, buying a typewriter, setting up my landline, setting up all of my bills on autopay. Starting on January 1st, I stopped using the internet completely. And I was asking God, like, I'm following your path and I'm gonna continue following this. But I gotta tell you, like, this is way more challenging than I ever imagined.
Welcome to the Afterthoughts podcast. Today, we are very excited because we have probably spent dozens of episodes in some way talking about the internet, about social media, about phones, about AI, and
all incredibly hypocritical because we're still on them.
Yes, but with concerns about them.
Right.
So recently we had baptism weekend and Ormeo, Threethan as we call him, he's like, hey man, there's a guy in our church that we got to get on the podcast. And I had heard and met Greg and I knew of his life changes he'd made when it came to the internet. And we finally got him here. So this is Greg.
Let's go,
Welcome, Greg.
Yo, thanks guys.
Greg is internetless. He does not use the internet in his life.
Offline Greg.
And I was thinking, you know, there's a kind of this pendulum of our era of technology where there's many people who are fully addicted to social media and phones, and that's like the method of life. Everything's lived through that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people trying to course correct and maybe get towards the middle. And then on the way other side, you have someone like Greg.
Yeah.
So with a very different perspective, I'm excited to ask you a bunch of questions. But first, just give us a little bit of your backstory, where you come from, how you showed up here, and then we'll get into the internetless life.
Yeah. Oh, can I do a couple of shout outs first? Okay, shout out to Penguin, shout out Ty, the IT guy, shout out Big Red, Bowser, RIP Bob, Peaches, Cooper, and RIP to just like all the dinosaurs.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
He has a
really well
notepad
said.
and he showed up prepared.
All the dinosaurs.
Which dinosaur do you miss the most, Greg?
The Velociraptor.
Yeah.
Zeke
do you-
would love to hang out with you.
Yeah, my son is a big dinosaurs guy. Do you ascribe to the dinosaurs were more like birds theory, that velociraptors are like scary turkeys kind of?
Big time. But although there are a
Big
lot
time.
of lizards on the golf course that I work at,
Yes.
and I look at a lizard, I'm like, somebody tell me that's not a dinosaur.
Yeah, correct.
yeah.
Correct.
Like a short end of
Yeah,
drew the wrong card.
The runt
Dinosaur.
of dinosaurs. Yeah. But or a Komodo dragon.
Yeah.
Dude, that's a straight up dinosaur that's still on Earth. Those things are terrifying.
Wait,
So, yeah.
why Velociraptor?
I feel like it's the most, so it's not too small, it's not too big.
Yeah.
It's right in the middle and it feels like it's still so fearsome.
Dude, and if there was any dinosaur that would go against the grain and like protest against technology, it would be the raptor.
You think
Yeah.
that's
You know what I
his-
mean?
That's
Yeah.
his dinosaur type.
Yeah.
Have you ever listened to this podcast? Are you able to do that? No, I guess you
No, I
you're not.
don't. Not even once.
Not even,
Like,
you can't.
and no offense to you
No,
guys.
no,
but
none
like,
No,
taken.
none taken.
There are, let
You
me tell you,
couldn't.
there are tons of people who've never listened to this podcast. I can promise you that. Welcome to a podcast you know nothing about then. But
I know
on
the
this
idea.
podcast, we like to talk about faith and the intersection of that with life and the way we live it out. And that comes to our culture, that comes to relationships, that comes out in a lot of different ways. We like to talk deeper into sermons and things like that. But like I said, there is such a constant conversation for us in navigating, leading a church of people who we know are addicted to their phones. Like we have those Yonder bags that you can get from our merch team to put your phone in and lock it for the service. No one does that. No one does that. And we always joke, like people will check their kids in for an hour, but they will not check their phone in.
The
an
only
hour.
fruit so far of those bags is highlighting the problem. That's
Exactly.
the only thing those bags have
And
done.
so today, maybe we can highlight the problem, but also maybe help people see some solutions that they may actually do. That few people will probably do what you're doing,
yeah.
but you might be able to help us get in that direction. But
great.
we've already sidetracked ourselves with dinosaurs. Where are you from? How'd you
Yes.
get to Austin? What is it that you do? How'd you show up at this church?
Yeah. So I grew up in the frozen tundra of Minnesota. I like central Minnesota.
Huh?
I grew up in a town called Elk River, and I left when I was 18, and I went to school on the East Coast. I did grad school in Virginia, undergrad in South Carolina. And as far as like my relationship with God and my relationship with Jesus, that was never a part of my life ever at all. And it wasn't even like I was an atheist growing up. It wasn't like my dad or my parents were atheists. It was just we'd play basketball on Sundays and we'd watch the Minnesota Vikings on Sundays.
Right.
Like the church just wasn't even a thought.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't until I moved to Austin to work for a publishing company. I was a ghostwriter for nonfiction books.
Yep.
Oh,
And
cool.
I did that for a few years, and I got to the point where I had my own books that were just left completely unloved.
Yeah.
And I was like putting all of my creative energy into somebody else's work. And I was like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I
know that exact feeling.
Yeah. I was like, Ryan and I like talk about that stuff all the time.
You're also repping the Austin Public Library today,
Yeah,
which is great.
dude, what a great
Big
shirt.
proponent of books.
What a great place.
It is a great place. So like I work on a golf course now,
Which course?
Austin Country Club.
Oh,
And it's a beautiful place.
what a dream.
I know. And it's more than just a bunch of lizards. Like there's other good stuff.
There's 18 beautiful holes of golf.
That's true.
Yes.
People forget about that.
But lizards too.
But when I go to the library, people often ask me like, how do I handle directions? I'm getting sidetracked again, but they ask me like, without using the internet, how do I handle directions? I have to go into the library sometimes because they have a big reference map on the 5th floor that has every street in Williamson and Travis County listed in alphabetical order. So if somebody says like, oh, I'm having a party at 109 Cadence Street, I don't know where that is. So I have to go to the library to get the reference map. And then I cross-reference the street to a grid on there.
Wow.
And then I have to like reverse engineer how to get from my house to there.
Wait.
Yeah.
We got to talk about this. Okay, so you're up there in the library.
Yeah.
And you can't take a picture of that.
No.
Are you writing that down in your journal? Or are you just
Sketching
really
the
good
map?
at remembering things?
It's a little bit of both. Like that example that I'm giving, I was like, oh, okay, I see on the map that it's just north of 183. I'm like, okay, 45 is over there. I am pretty good, but I have to write down, okay, left on whatever it is, and then right on Cadence, and then it's the first route. Like I'll have to write a few notes down.
That's so wild.
Yeah. So I do use the library. And then also with the weather plays a big part of my life because at a golf course, like the weather is everything.
Yeah.
And I go to the library to look at the newspaper so I can see what the weather is and I try to actively not look at any of the headlines because I don't want to know. But whenever I hear about like the news, anything beyond what's happening at the church, in my neighborhood, and at the golf course just sounds like poison to me. Like I don't want to know.
Wow.
So I don't even look at the headlines. I just look at the back page.
So you don't get a newspaper delivered to your house. Like you want to avoid. Okay.
The only thing I want is the weather.
Yeah.
Wow.
But, yeah.
And for those who don't know, the golf course is big for you because that's where you work.
Yes, that's where I work.
And that you chose that job because
it doesn't require me to use the internet. So like as I was working for this, like doing ghostwriting, this is in 2018, 19.
Yeah.
I left. I did my own thing for a little bit, tried to do my own ghostwriting firm. I was like, dude, why am I an entrepreneur for something I don't care about? Like, I left that company because I don't care. Well, what am I doing? And so I went in, I started to get into like tech and like crypto and AI. And for like 3 years, I worked for all of these like fly-by-night crypto companies that they'd exist for 3 months and then they just go out of business.
Yeah.
And then I was with this AI company for about a year, starting in 2023. And I was doing social media for an AI crypto company. I don't like social media. I don't like crypto. I got to the point where I was having some real existential crises about AI because I was like watching what people were creating, like AI girlfriends and all this kind of stuff. I was like, what is it that I'm helping bring into this world?
Wow.
Yeah.
And I would be out. I would have a meeting with somebody in my company. And like, for all I know, those people that I worked with, it's a higher than 0% chance that those people were AI themselves because I never met any of them in person. Ever.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Ethan's fired up.
Yeah, dude, let's go.
Ethan just found out that half of his friend group are not real people.
Sorry, dude, the Discord chat, it's all a lie.
Oh, man. Dude, that's fascinating.
And so I was like,
So you saw like the most extreme version of technology.
I was
you had
in
like a front row seat to it.
yes.
Yeah.
And because I was working remotely and everyone talks about like the advantages about working remotely, but like people are not talking about all these disadvantages where I was isolated. I was completely by myself at my house in my apartment, just me and my dog. And I'd have these meetings where we would talk about our emoji use in our Twitter accounts. And I'm like, dude, I don't even like Twitter. I don't like social media. What am I doing? It got to the point where I was so isolated that I was experiencing some pretty extreme agoraphobia. Like I was afraid to leave my house. I was scared to take my dog out to go to the bathroom because I would run into another person. And I was like, I'm going to have to make eye contact with them.
Wow.
And they're going to see that I'm a psycho. Like
Wow.
I'm a loser, dude. I'm all this negative talk that was just going on.
Yeah.
And then I'd waste time. I'd be on YouTube for 7-8 hours just watching music videos, avoiding work that I didn't want to do. And it got to the point where this is 2025 this year, 2024, last summer, I had one meeting where we spent like a half hour with like the entire marketing department. And we were talking about whether or not we should use one space or no spaces after emojis on Twitter. And it was like this big heated argument.
Yeah.
And I got done with the call and I closed my laptop and I looked at my dog Penguin and I was like, is this it? Is this like what it's all been for?
Wow.
And at this point,
What kind of dog is Penguin?
she's a multi-poodle.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
she's like this big. I never would have wanted a small dog because I think they're all like annoying yappers.
Yeah.
I never would have chosen a small dog.
Yeah.
She has changed my mind on small dogs.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah. Ask
go, Penguin.
anyone that came to movie night, and Penguin is totally chill. Otherwise, I wouldn't have given her a shout out. But at this point,
So you and Penguin have this existential crisis.
we have this existential crisis. And at this point in my relationship with Red Rocks, and Red Rocks is literally the first church I've ever been to in my entire life.
And why did you show up?
My yoga practice, a lot of people don't like hearing this, but I found God through my yoga practice.
Mhm.
And all that new age stuff
Mhm.
led me to a relationship with Jesus. And so
yeah.
I started
talk
my
about
yoga practice in 2021, and I was diligent about that. And I started feeling this connection to some golden thread of divinity that I did not know what it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? The same way I don't want to practice yoga at my house, I don't want to practice a relationship with whatever it is that I'm tapping into just by myself at my house. This was happening concurrently with me like digging deeper into these like remote jobs, right?
Mhm.
And Christmas of 2022, my friend came to Red Rocks and she really liked the music. And she's like, you got to come. It's great music. And I was like, I've been waiting for a church. I don't know how to even go about choosing a church. I was like, sure. And I came and Doug spoke, and it was it was early 2023. And it must have been like the Real Relationship series, like REEL, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And Doug was the first guy I heard, and he was talking about men and women in a way that I was like, oh, nobody in the zeitgeist is talking about relationships like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept coming back, and I had a very superficial relationship with the church. Ethan, I know you care, but you don't care, but I would leave like during worship at the end. And I was like, I wanted to
I
be.
know you care, but you don't care, but you do care. I do care. Not in judgment or
I
condemnation.
know. But I wanted to.
Greg, thanks for being honest, man. Of course. This is a safe place for confession.
That's right.
Yes. And I wanted to build a deeper relationship here, but I was so scared. Like I'd
Sure.
see all these people who knew each other in the lobby, and
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know any of you, and I don't know how to break into this place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted to join a group, but I was scared, and I wanted to make friends, but I was scared. But I just kept showing up, and I like continued that superficial relationship with the church.
Yeah.
And by the time this crisis happened last summer, where I was like, close the laptop, look at Penguin, I was like, something has to drastically change. That was right around the time I started having like a deeper relationship with this place. Like I just started serving on the safety team. I was starting to make friends. I wasn't leading a group yet, but I was like starting to get in closer here. And I felt closer in my relationship with God at that time.
Yeah.
So it's last summer. I realized something has to change. My old business partner who I'd built this ghostwriting firm with, who's he's like one of my closest friends. He's like, dude, I don't know what you have to do, but you have to get out of whatever it is that you're doing and just like go up to Montana. Montana is my away place. My family has a mountain house up there. I go there in the summers.
Yeah.
He's like, go up to Montana and just like take a few days off the internet.
Yeah.
So I'm up there off the internet and I'm in my like secret away place. I have no job. I have no idea what's next. It's just me and my dog camping in the mountains.
Yeah.
And there's this voice that tells me like, I say, why am I using the internet at all? Why am I on social media? And this voice in response is just like, yeah, why? And I start thinking like, what would my life look like if I didn't use this at all? It's like, yeah, what would it look like? And it just set into this motion. And at that time I had a flip phone. I was not using the internet for a couple of weeks. I was in Montana and I was like, I could see better. That metaphorical type of scene where I could see the trees better and I could connect it and I could see like my present situation better. And
It was like the hue and saturation was turned up on the world.
yes,
And you could see more colors and you could taste more food and you could hear more birds.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are so many birds in Montana and I heard every one of them.
Yeah.
And they're like, we used to be dinosaurs. I'm like, I feel you, buddy.
What a callback.
We got it. Yeah, we're a quarter of the way into this, and we got an amazing callback already. Great job.
Thanks, dude.
Nicely done.
And
We used to be. That's why they're chirping. We were cooler than this.
when I just said to myself, I was like, whatever emotional and psychological space I'm in, I have to do whatever it takes to stay here.
Right.
And I started secretly building this idea of like, I'm going to go offline for an entire year. And and there are all these voices, like when the disciples see Jesus walking on water, they first think that he's a ghost.
Yeah.
It was like that. I was like, am I just doing another massive pendulum swing that's just an old repetition? Am I just chasing a ghost right now? Because there's a part of me, I think that I have to integrate some of my extreme pendulum swing in order to like get through whatever it is that I was experiencing, this anxiety and like this self-loathing and this like the path that I was on was going to wind up with me dead in my apartment. I was going to have like some manic episode. Yeah. I was going to be locked in there and all of my friends would have been like, we never saw it coming. That's where that was leading.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I was like, yeah.
You made a commitment for 2025.
I made a commitment for 2025. And I started setting up it took me like 2 months before I felt comfortable even telling my friends that I was thinking about this, telling my dad and my closest friends. And by the fall, I started the process of like, I'm going to set up the logistics to get this in order. And I started creating a book proposal.
Right.
Because in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm going to go offline for a year.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like this big gallivanting journey where every month I do another sub quest where I like try to re-strengthen something that is atrophied from me being offline. Everything from my vision to my posture to my social skills. And each month it's going to be something new.
Which, to pause for a second, this is like classic writer's problem.
Dude.
Is everything that we try to do in life becomes a means to an end to something that we can write about it and a book that we can write about. And what's really funny, I've observed this now for 6 months. It's like your excitement for this journey started down here, but your excitement for the book was up here.
Yeah.
And I've just watched it like completely reverse, where like now you don't even really like talk about it as like an experiment, as a means to an end. It's just like a lifestyle that you're choosing. Is that accurate?
That's 100% accurate. Don't get me wrong. I'm still writing the book.
Oh, we can't wait. I can't wait for it.
Yes.
I would also say that I've watched your posture go like really good posture. That was one of the biggest pieces of feedback of all the baptism videos. Like, that guy has incredible posture.
Yes.
I see on camera, like so upright.
Then the lights come on and you and I are just like this.
Hey, Greg, sorry, I was texting.
Like, it's okay.
I'm sure it was powerful, but I need to know if anyone I went to high school with worked out today.
Did they?
I don't have social media, so I'm being facetious here. We should just get back to being facetious. So let's keep going. Okay, so let's talk about the setup of it. You said it took a while. Like, I think that's probably one of people's biggest questions. If you're gonna eradicate your life of the internet, what all don't you use now?
Yeah.
What can you use? Like, what are the methods and things that you had to realize, like, I've got to make a conscious effort to change that part of my life, because otherwise I'm going to get in my car and not know how to get somewhere. So I got to figure out the library thing. Like, what were some of those processes?
Yeah. As I was creating that book proposal, I was like, well, there's going to be some edge cases that I have to prepare for.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing was like, at first I thought, oh, I'm only going to use 1995 technology, analog technology.
Okay.
But I was like, well, we technically had the internet then. We technically had text messaging then. And I was like, okay, I'm just not going to use the internet. And so like, as I was creating these ground rules, I was like, no internet connected devices. I can't ask friends to look things up for me, because then I'd just be like, Threethan, hey, just treat you as my Siri. I'm like, hey, look up this.
We do that all the time.
Yeah. That's actually in his job title. Serve as AI for the staff.
Real life Siri.
Oh, Siri responded, I'm so sorry, Greg.
I thought she's only supposed to recognize your voice.
Oh, I did say Siri just now.
Oh,
so
you
that's
did?
Why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, Kayla, thanks for being here today. We kind of skipped over questions
That's
with Kayla.
okay. This is more important.
Well, she might have some questions. Just ask freely through the
whatever.
episode.
I did write down a few.
Whoa,
Okay,
I want to hear some
hold on.
questions.
Let's finish the
My
Yes,
bad.
the ground
switch,
rules.
the ground rules, and then we'll let Kayla
Okay.
ask you a question. or
Okay, so I can't ask somebody to look things up for me. I can use an ATM, but I won't use a self-check. All of the rules are predicated on like building the most connections, possibilities for adventure and collisions with people.
Okay.
So I can use an ATM, but I will not use a self-checkout at a grocery store or something, because that forces me to like talk to the person at the cash register.
Right.
So you're gonna wait in the longer line
Yep.
to be with the actual cashier.
I do, yes.
Awesome.
But why can't you use an ATM?
Because I thought in my conception of this year, I was going to be gallivanting around the world on this book thing. Like, oh, I'm going to go to learn piano in Italy and all this kind of stuff. I was like, if I'm doing something internationally,
Right,
I will
okay.
have to use an ATM at
Got
some
it.
point.
Okay.
Right.
Continue.
And,
More ground rules.
That's some of the ground rules.
Okay.
There are a few other, I don't listen to the radio. Because
Oh, wow.
to me, that's just like the audio version of like Instagram scrolling. It's like just a bunch of
Funny.
noise and then a bunch of ads. I'm like, and then they talk about the news sometimes. Like, hey, Caitlyn Jenner. I'm like, dude, I just don't want to hear any of it. It's the same as me like going to the newspaper and not looking at the headlines, you know?
It's the most random person to think of.
Yes. I don't want it.
When
Yes.
it
I'm
comes-
opting out.
Understood. Music then, do you listen to like, do you have records?
I have
Do you
a record player.
tapes
I don't have a
record player.
cassette player, but I'm open to it.
or CDs? Would those be acceptable?
I would be open to see
Let's
any
get him some
analog.
CDs.
Yeah.
He did ask about Chasing Rabbits. Maybe we can get him a
I can
Chasing
get you
Rabbits CD.
a CD.
Nice.
Absolutely.
He hasn't listened to music in a long time too much, so maybe Chasing Rabbits won't be terrible to him.
Maybe you'll be one of the first to think that that's actually pretty good.
It's like giving a starving guy a sandwich.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what our band's
that's
like.
What that's what their music was for.
You hit the
That's
nail on the
so
head,
good.
Greg.
That's what
Okay.
Rolling Stone said.
So no internet. So you described like how you're gonna figure out directions.
Yeah.
Can we get you a map book of Austin? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, the Kappa book that I use at the library, that's the
chief one.
That's the chief one.
Because I remember like as a kid in the 90s road tripping up the West Coast, and my mom would be navigating with my dad. They'd have a map, and they'd be like, okay, we need to get over here, get on this highway. We're going to get off there and figure the whole thing out.
Oh
No
yes.
internet,
so I have an atlas. I have
Yeah.
that's good for like getting interstate and like across different
But
cities.
city of Austin, there's not really.
I have a county. So in order to, I was like, all I have is the atlas, which I had to find at a garage sale for
Amazing.
$1.
That's so great.
And I was like, I found that in Montana. And then I was like, okay, now that I'm in the city, I need like a citywide. I was like, where can I go? Oh, the visitor center. It's like, where's the visitor center? It's like, I had to go like hunt that down.
yeah.
And it's over
Wow.
like on the
Yeah.
east downtown side by the conference center. So they had a street level of
Okay.
Austin. And I was like, all right, now I need like a county wide. I need something like with the bigger roads that's somewhere between the states and the city. And I was like, oh, the Chamber of Commerce. And so I had to like hunt down the Chamber of Commerce. So now I have like an atlas, a county wide, and a city wide. I can 80%. I'm there. 80% of like just random addresses, I can get there.
You
I
know
might make
Austin. You know Austin that well now.
it pretty well.
That's impressive.
That
pretty
is
well.
really cool.
I might take a few wrong turns, but your boy will get there.
I love it. Okay, Kayla,
Hey.
ask Greg a question or two. Bring it on. Questions with Kayla is the experience of a lifetime for anyone.
Yeah,
I
you're
don't
gonna
want
love
to
this.
withhold this from you as a guest. So.
Thank you.
Yes. So we all have a version of scrolling, like for us with technology. I feel like even if Ethan's not on social media, like we use our phones in some way of a scrolling aspect.
Mine's the ESPN app. Right?
Yeah.
I'll just read and read and read
Yeah.
articles about
Nice.
sports.
Do you have a version of scrolling that's not technology based that you have to like kind of still catch yourself being like, okay,
great
let me, just because I'm not using the internet, this is still not very fruitful for my life.
Dang.
There are
One of
two
your best,
things.
Kayla.
That's very good. Like there are two things that come to mind. One, before I went offline, like I smashed my hard drive
Oh, wow.
and I have like years of journals.
Okay.
I have years of journals. Like I've been writing a really exhaustive journal since 2007.
Okay.
And so I had almost 20 years of journal entries that I didn't want to lose. So I like bound all of those. And when I bound it, it's literally a bookshelf of just like
Wow.
sort of, it's a lot of chaos.
Okay.
If I scroll, I'll like, this whole experiment has been like this really deep meditation and nostalgia. I'll go back into my own journals and there's like this weird self-voyeurism that happens that I don't know is always beneficial.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's helpful.
Yeah.
But it's a level of navel gazing that is not always, that's my scrolling.
Interesting.
If
Yeah.
I'm reading my own journals before bed, I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And then the other one is, this one isn't too bad, but I'll watch movies on VHS, but I'm not like sitting there. It's like a long day at the golf course and I'll like eat dinner and I'll have a movie play for like 20 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Those are the two things. The
Okay.
journal thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a I love that question.
That's that's funny. But the movie could kind of be like a mind numbing, like, let me just disconnect and detach. Kind of, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but when I was online, that would have been YouTube, and I would have been on there for 4 hours.
Right.
But now it's like, it's serving its purpose. It's like,
Got it.
I've done my work for the day. Just like chill out before
Relax.
I go to
It's
bed.
an exhale.
Enjoy something. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. What else? You got good questions today.
That was great.
That was good.
So I don't love to dive into the news or things like that, but I still will get information here and there.
Yeah.
But you said you don't like it at all. Like, don't give me any of that.
Yeah.
Do you find it to a point where you're like, maybe I should care a little bit about like the like outside world?
Mhm.
Because like right now you're connecting with people in a certain range, but you still don't know what's going on beyond that like
Yeah.
bubble in a way. Do you find the tension in that, or do you want to like learn more a little bit about like what's going on, or
Yeah.
like,
I know what you're saying. Like, I always had this almost guilt. It was like a guilt-driven desire to like learn about the world. But truly, I think like the great American privilege is our isolationism. And I think that like trickles down to the individual as well.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, we can be whole into ourselves as a nation. We can be whole into ourselves as a community. We can be whole into ourselves in different ways.
Mhm.
But like, I need that inner community. No, I don't feel, people will say things like, did you see? If a question starts with the phrase, did you see? The answer for me is always no. And guys at the country club will bring up like something Trump or something tariffs,
Yeah.
and it literally sounds like poison to me.
Mhm.
And so it's like, how much of the well-being that I am experiencing right now that is like radiating out to the people I love and care about, am I willing to sacrifice so I can know what's going on in the Middle East? Nah, like
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
don't miss it at all.
Do you think that's because of the content itself or because of how people handle the content?
I don't know if there's any difference. Like that content doesn't exist in a vacuum.
Sure. I tend to think with like certain things just happening, like facts of the world. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, knowing that, I don't need to know everything. I think because of social media, we all know way more than we should, and we have way more on our shoulders than any human should bear.
Yeah.
With the amount of knowledge we have. But to me, it's not even always the actual story. It's the opinions and the way that people like, did you hear this? Because they want to get your heart rate going. They're riling up about something. They're so fiercely opinionated or angry or bitter about something. To me, that's more poisonous. I know that they go hand in hand, but does that make sense?
It
what I'm
does make
asking?
sense. Like that, when I see even if I glance at the headlines in the newspaper, it's filtered through the bias of whatever the publication that is, but that's not like, projected through a person on social media or whatever. Even that feels like, no.
Yeah.
No, like
it's kind of like I picture like a classic, a guy who lives out on this beautiful farm and he's just got this great thing going there and a family and some community there. And then someone from the big city shows up and brings in some sort of like outside force or whatever. And that kind of ruins the beauty and simplicity of that life out there. It feels like that's what the news is for you.
maybe. I never really thought of it that way, but I mean, it might be. I just don't want it, and I've been better off without it.
Okay.
And what was the opening line you used to answer that question? Something about America's privilege is isolation.
Yeah, people talk about like American isolationism as though it's a bad thing, but I think it's one of our great privileges.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it allows us like, there's a certain obligation that people say, it's like Americans don't know what's going on in the world. And I used to feel a guilt about that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, I'm actually proud of that.
Yeah.
And maybe people want to call that ignorance, but your boy reads plenty, and I keep in touch with certain things.
Yeah.
Well, we were just listening to a pastor talk about selective ignorance as something to practice that no one can in social media world. It doesn't have the self-control to, or it's just there's too many outlets in your life. So you know everything.
Yeah.
And I think maybe how my version of what you're saying would be is we do have the gift of selective ignorance that we don't have to know everything.
Yeah.
We don't have to go read that story. We don't have to dive into the drama behind that thing. We don't have to let that stuff consume us. That is a great gift that few people exercise. So it can serve to protect your mind.
I think
in a lot
so.
of ways and you have a very extreme ability to do that in the way you're living.
It's very cool.
Kayla, any other questions?
I have one more.
Please.
So the guys on the podcast, I mean, myself included, they feel like the Apostle Paul would be on social media. What are your thoughts now that you're not on it? Do you think that he would be on social media as like evangelizing and like sharing the gospel in a way? Or do you feel like, no, he would just be on his own type thing?
I love the question. I can't pretend to know. I love the question. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to answer. I'm sorry, but I just don't know.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to have an answer.
Yeah.
I don't think you would.
You don't.
But that obviously I'm living my decision based off of not believing that's what's best for a human being or our culture. And so I think the purpose, there is so much purpose within it. And I don't want to negate that because so many cool things have happened in the world on a personal level. And I'm projecting onto him. So like you said,
Nice.
I don't know. But there is, in my opinion, at this point, we've reached the level with social media that there is far more bad that outweighs the good.
It's interesting.
There's not a good enough argument for me that it's doing good, enough good left in the world to take part in it and be complicit in that sense. But that's partially hypocritical because I'm through our social media at church part of that. So
Yeah. So
I wrestle with that question a lot.
So then I'm on the other side going, I think that the Apostle Paul, he was a missionary at the end of the day. And it is, for all the bad, it's also one of the best ways to get the word out. Like so many people who show up to Red Rocks, it's like, how'd you hear about the church? It's like, well, through social media. So I'm of the belief, and this is why I'm back on it, which I have my own thoughts on, that if he was alive today, he would use it as a missional tool to further the Great Commission. But he was also this very extreme guy who had a very individualized calling, and I think that's true about everybody, right? And so I don't mean that, I don't mean to like put that on everybody. I think it's really important that you learn to listen to yourself and the calling that God has placed on your life for this season is.
And maybe he would have the self-control, and he was a guy who could say, I can steward this and handle this, and it's not going to get to me. Who knows?
I don't know.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Okay. Well, that question and y'all's answer triggered a thought in me.
Okay.
And the yonder bags.
Yeah.
And we encourage people to like put the phone in the bag, but then at the end we say, hey, scan this QR code.
Yes. But also,
Yes. That's it.
great point.
Fair point, Greg.
Fair point.
Well played.
We also, and we probably don't say this as much as we should, we also have a team of people in the lobby at the Welcome Center that are supposed to be the point of contact for that stuff. Like, hey, if you have more questions, if you want to sign up, there's a team out there of humans in the lobby to do that as well. So there's an option for those of you that don't have your phone on you in that moment. But that is very funny.
It's a funny point. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Kayla.
Yes.
Great question.
Thank you.
Yes.
Some great questions. All right. What have you missed the most?
There were the first 3 weeks were a withdrawal period that I never could have guessed.
Interesting.
I was like, because when I was in Montana, what I didn't realize is when I was in Montana experiencing being offline, I could always, in my head, I was like, it was a vacation because I was going to come back to Austin and I was going to be online again.
Yeah.
So, but in January 1st, when I even like got rid of my flip phone and signed up for the landline, the withdrawal period was, I miss the media itch. Like the first 3 weeks, I would have this itch. I'd be like, you can look up any piece of media from the last 150 years and have it immediately. And being able to do that creates this, what's the word for when you kind of expect something, like you just have a, you don't take it.
Expectation.
But whatever
You
it
take
is.
it for granted.
Yes. Like you take for granted the ability to like look up any piece of media. So those first 3 weeks, I would think of a song and I'm like, oh yeah. And then I couldn't watch the music video. Or I'd think of, I want to reference something in what I was writing. And I was like, well, that's just gone.
Yeah.
Or I'd want to like quote a movie. And I just could not access it.
Hmm.
But like those first 3 weeks, when I got my landline, first of all, when I called AT&T to set up a landline, they were actually angry at me. The guy in the rep, he's like, why would you want to do that? It's going to be more expensive. He said that the line always goes out. It's going to be harder to contact you and you're only going to be able to blah, blah, blah. Wow. And I was like, I literally said, I was like, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Is that what they said to you when you called to set up this one, by the way?
Yeah, they were not happy.
Hello, AT&T.
Yeah,
It's a mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
And what the first call I made, I didn't realize at first I'd only be able to call local numbers. So I missed calling people that did not have 512 or 737 numbers.
Oh, wow. You can't
Yes.
call long distance?
I can't call long distance.
Wow.
And so I only have a few friends.
Seriously, we used to have that ability.
Yeah, you
Now
just
don't?
push one and then the area code.
Yeah.
No, I
No?
just, it won't even, the
Wow.
number you've called cannot be processed as
Wow.
dialed. That's kind of-
Which I feel like these days, very few people, like everybody has the area code that they lived in when they were like
Right.
13.
Got their first
Yes.
cell phone.
You know?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
none of my friends have a 512. So I call up, it's like January 3rd. I have not made any calls with my landline yet. And I call up one of my 512 friends and I'm like, this is the most valuable friend I have. Please answer. I don't have an answering machine yet. So I have to like connect. So I call her up and we're going to set up to go like meet up on Red River to go to a concert.
Yeah.
And I call her up and the static is so loud. It's like, there's so much crackle and it's like, there's a dial tone in the background. It's like, beep, 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 beep. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. And we literally could not set up plans to meet up because we couldn't get the information across the phone lines.
Oh
and
my gosh.
it was legit. It felt like I was trying to connect to somebody on a different planet. I was like the International Space Station to Mars.
Whoa.
And I hung up the phone and I was like, I have made the biggest mistake of my life. This is just going to lead to ostracization. And there's all this psychological stuff going on where I had to go out. One of my friends in the first week, he's like, do you find yourself like at home more? I'm like, homie, if I want anything to happen in my life, I have to leave. Nothing can happen at home.
Mm.
And so I have to interact with people even more. And yet, so counterintuitively, at the same time, I felt more and more isolated because it was like there's this thread. Ethan, you did a sermon, I don't know how long ago it was, maybe a month or two ago, where you showed like some memes on the board.
Yeah.
I don't look at those screens.
You can't take that content. You're like blocking yourself from that content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't look at
You
those
missed out.
screens.
Great memes.
They were like,
They were
so
great.
imagine out the corner of your eye, you see this like colorful, funny thing that 500 people are
Yeah,
laughing at,
yeah.
and you are choosing not to engage in that.
Wow.
It's a very isolating feeling. That's like
Sure.
perfectly analogous to how I was feeling. I was like,
Huh.
I'm around people, but I'm walking like a separate but parallel path with them.
Wow.
And I would feel it when I was here, when I'd hear these slivers of conversation. People were like, oh, did you go to the blah, blah, blah? Like, I was like, whoa, there's a lot of coordination between social events that happens online that I'm just not a part of, even the
Yeah.
people that I see consistently.
Yeah.
And that isolation was really intense those first weeks in ways. So
Yeah.
Wow.
Has that improved or do you still
Oh.
feel isolated?
no. I feel more myself and more connected with people than I thought was even possible. Like,
Interesting.
I thought that I had the day-to-day anxiety that I felt, like that dread that I would feel sometimes. I thought that that was just like a requisite part of the human experience that I was just going to have to deal with. I didn't realize that that was like new.
Mm.
And that day-to-day, like, don't get me wrong, I was nervous to come here. I'm nervous for the things that require some anxiety.
Sure.
But like the day-to-day dread of existence is completely gone in a way that I never thought it would be gone before. And I would never recommend what I'm doing to anybody, but that, like that, the absence of that dread and that anxiety and feeling like so much more myself, like,
Dude.
I don't know that I will willingly give that up for anything. So
Wow.
that's what brought this from being a 1-year experiment where I was going to be gallivanting into being like, I don't think I'm ever going back.
Wow.
That's wild. So it's like that dread was there, and for years you would get close to addressing it, and then you'd find a way to numb by watching a music video or whatever. And then all of a sudden, in the absence of being able to numb, you were face to face the whatever the pain was, and you went through it. And now, do you feel like you're on the other side? Is that fair to say, or am
I don't know. I was addressing
oversimplifying
it.
it?
That's not oversimplifying it. Like, I think that's a part of it because I was addressing that anxiety in like my own therapy process. Like, I was in
Sure.
psychoanalysis for a long time. Like, I was addressing it, but there's something like physiological.
Ooh.
Okay. Here's what I've come to realize, that it took me several months. The devices that we have, we talk about them causing anxiety. Like, I don't think they cause anxiety. I don't think any of this causes anxiety. I think it's actually the exact opposite.
Okay.
I think that a lot of the motions that we take with the internet and with our devices are meant to alleviate anxiety. It's like, oh, I'm nervous that nobody's going to be at the door, so I'm going to text them. Or it's like, I'm nervous my friend is not going to show up for that meeting, so I'm going to text them to alleviate that anxiety. I'm nervous about the restaurant, so I'm going to look up the menu. And what happens is that we atrophy that muscle inside of us that's able to overcome everyday anxiety. So it gets so weak that just the
Interesting.
regular anxiety of life just becomes so overwhelming.
Whoa.
It's like, I'm not encountering less anxiety. That muscle to overcome it is just stronger. The same way that
Wow.
our Google Maps, we have Google Maps that we outsource all of our directions to. So our directional
we stopped
ability,
working out
it's
that
gone.
part of our brain.
and it's gone. It's the same. It's perfectly analogous.
That's, dude, that was very profound.
That's so That's awesome.
And that may, I mean, you could make a great case for that psychologically and statistically.
What's up?
Threethan's panicking over here.
Just like, oh my gosh, his life is flashing before his eyes. Well, but because like everyone talks about like, well, we see the rise of anxiety and the rise of depression and the rise of suicide and all these things going on. And we know it's tied to technology. There's like the timeline of it is perfectly aligned with the internet, right? And there's a lot of factors within that, from just that inundation of news to pornography to social media addiction to all this stuff. But I've never heard somebody explain it in the sense of how those things have actually dumbed down our abilities as humans to overcome those things. We always hear it adding more to your life. That's, dude, I got to think about that.
We need to like get back in the gym, so to speak, when it comes to handling anxiety on our own.
And Doug has said, you know, that we actually should have a level of anxiety in our lives, because if you have no anxiety, it's kind of like nothing bothers you and you're just kind of like, whatever happens, I don't think critically about things. Like that is actually can be a healthy thing in you because it speaks something in you. I think Brene Brown said something like, I'm still always nervous when I speak because that means it matters to me. That means it's like there's something to this that actually is important. So
that's really profound.
Thanks, man. Do you guys ever hug on the podcast? Can we hug?
Yeah, we can hug.
You want to hug right now? We've still got some time, but you and I will hug at the end.
That was just halfway through the podcast intermission.
I love that. That was a good intermission hug. It's beautiful.
I'm here for it.
Sometimes you just need a hug.
And I'm sure you wouldn't even need me to say this bouncing statement, but like not with a judgmental tone, but when you're around a bunch of people who are getting their phones out, texting, ignoring each other, I have to feel like it feels like you're constantly the one sober person at an entire world of a drunk, like a party that everyone's on something and you're the only sober person. Yeah. What are observations? How does that make you like, man, I don't miss that. Yeah. I feel for people in this. Like what do you observe as that person seeing the party from a totally different perspective?
Yeah. The alcohol analogy is apt. Because a lot of times, even when I stopped drinking, for example, like I stopped drinking alcohol some years back, most people would be like, oh, that's so cool. The same way they respond to this, like, oh, that's so cool. But then there are a few people, it's like, well, what are you going to do when you go to a bar? What are you going to do when everyone else is drinking? How are you going to get around town? Like, it's very much the same. And when I see people on their phones, how does it make me feel? What do I notice? Honestly, what I notice with people as they're getting on their phones, they're spending more time on their phones. There's a certain fidget. I notice that people that are really internet coded, they tend to fidget more often, and they tend to be like just looking at the phone is a fidget, and they're strengthening the fidget muscle. So then when they're not looking at the phone, they're fidgeting a bunch. I get frustrated more. Like the phones don't bother me as much as the AirPods do, because I like talking to people. Yeah. And at first I was like, hey, this is my journey. This has nothing to do with anybody else. But then when I'm walking down the street and I see somebody I want to talk to, like older people in AirPods, that frustrates me so much, because there's all this wisdom that would be imparted just in like these passing conversations that doesn't happen anymore. That frustrates me way more than the phone.
There's like now like a personality type that like it's like your headphones are always on your body. Like people that have those that they take it with them. Yeah. I noticed that first in college. This was like the video iPod phase of technology. Oh, yeah. But all of a sudden on campus, you saw more and more people with headphones when they'd walk across campus. And less were you saying hi to people and whatever. You would be yelling to somebody, they couldn't hear you because they're got their headphones in. And now that's obviously increased a whole lot. So it's the showcase to everyone else, like, don't bother me. Don't talk to me. Right. I don't want to be present with other people because I've got my own thing going on.
Yeah, I just want to talk to them without having to go like, hey, could you take the thing out? Yeah.
Let's talk about improvements to your life. Let's start with just a logistical, like physical, this has improved my life in these ways, and then we'll get to the spiritual, because I also want to tie back into the new age journey that you came out of. What are things you see like so much healthier in your life, physically, emotionally, mentally?
When I first started at the golf course, I couldn't see the ball off the club. Like I would work on the driving range and I couldn't see the ball off the club. And a couple weeks ago, I can see the ball better. So I think my vision has improved.
Wow. Whoa.
Which was one of the things that I was looking for. Like there's just the knots. I'd seen glimpses of that before. Like when I'd be in Montana, you're just staring at like long distances for a long time. So I think that improves. Like I've seen little glimpses of it.
It'd be crazy to think that staring at a screen with all kinds of constant overwhelming media would mess up your vision.
What the heck? How did this happen?
How did we get here? Okay, vision.
The vision.
How's your memory?
My memory has always been pretty good.
Okay.
I think just my general presence is more palpable.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like my memory, I think maybe has improved a little bit, but I'm reading more. Ryan, the writing has been coming so fruitfully. Like
I was gonna ask, man.
I use a GX 6750 electric typewriter. Best thing I've ever written
phenomenal.
on.
That's cool.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So moving from typing on a computer to on a typewriter.
Yeah.
What are the biggest differences?
Okay. Do you use a Mac? Does it have the big chunky keys or the little keys?
Little ones.
Okay. So on the little keys, you can write as fast as you can think pretty much. And I used to think that was a benefit.
Yeah.
But what I wound up doing is that like, hey, guess what? Not every thought needs to be written down.
Oh, dude, I delete so much.
Yes. And you can like you can select a big chunk of text and just be like, see you, buddy.
Yeah.
But what I found is that handwriting is too slow.
Right.
Like I feel like I miss stuff because I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah.
This electric typewriter is the perfect speed for me, at least, because I'm like, it sounds like a machine gun.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it literally has to mechanically go.
Yeah.
And in those, you get a few seconds here and there. It just gives me a moment to be like, okay, gather my breath, gather my thoughts, and just write more thoughtfully. Like it's the perfect speed for me.
It's like the flow state and thoughtful at the same time.
Yes.
Thoughtful flow.
And it's not so slow that it can create whatever writer's block, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
This might be
It's like the
this is a
runner's
dumb
high.
question, but when you're saying
That's
electric
fascinating.
typewriter,
yes.
does that mean there's like a little, like, can you delete something? Is it printing out of that once you say this is good to go? Or are we talking like way back, like the ink is going straight onto a piece of paper?
Well, both. So like a manual typewriter, like something to, hey, listen here, kid, we're going to get the scoop on the news. That type of typewriter, you're literally mechanically, it's just like a bunch of levers and you have to manually do everything. An electric typewriter, it does all of the manual stuff electronically. So it's still banging the ink onto the thing, but I don't have to, the experience is more similar to how you would have done on a chunky keyboard in like the early 2000s.
But if there's a typo.
So it has a one-line memory. So I have a correct button and a line of white correction tape. So if I backspace to like the word THE and I mess it up, I can hit correct and go and bang white on it.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
That's a nice typewriter.
It's the best. I got it for $30 from somebody at like some real estate investment firm in North Austin. Like the things I have to go hunt and find.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
We've been kind of asking this, but like the biggest inconvenience in your life. What is the thing that you're like, okay, if I could just use the internet for that one thing that actually would make life.
Like making money.
The world is not set up to make money without the internet.
But
yeah,
I thought when I set up this whole like proposal, I was like, oh, month one, I'll get a job. That'll be easy. I'll just get some construction thing. I was so wrong. I thought that I could like print off my I typed up my resume and I went to go hand it around. I was like, I'll be able to get a job. This will be easy. Just get that done with. But like
nobody.
It was a harrowing experience to try and find a job. Imagine me with my resume in hand, like bouncing around downtown Austin to all of the like hotels, just saying, hey, are you guys hiring any maintenance people? They're like, apply online. I was like, but look at me, I'm here in person. You're supposed to be impressed. And they're like, we don't care, homie, get out.
Yeah.
And then I would go and like cold call. It got to the point where I was just like following work trucks on like Mopac and I would write down the phone number. I was like, I'm going to cold call them and see if they're hiring.
Wow.
Nothing. They'd be like, and sometimes there's a fence company. Somebody, the Austin Parks Department put up a fence in my backyard and it said Austin Rent a Fence 512. At this point, a 512 phone number was like gold to me because that's the only number I could call.
I found one.
If I see a company with a 512, imagine me when I found the Yellow Pages. I found a Yellow Pages at HEB. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So
my gosh, that's awesome.
I call Austin Rent a Fence. They're like, so you can bring in your resume in person. Here's the address. And I was like, oh, I have to hunt down the address. First of all, I get there to just see if I can get a fence job. I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
And I see these people like they're on their computers. They're doing their whatever email jobs. I don't know what these people are doing. There's like 3 of them just sitting there chatting on their computers. And I hand them my resume and they're like, I tell them, I'm like, I don't use the internet. Is this no devices? They're like, well, you'd have to use a smartphone to get to the locations of the jobs. And I looked at them with their computer jobs and the cushy life that I used to have. I used to have a company car, dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, it would be so easy to just give this all up.
Yeah.
But at no point did I actually get close.
But
It'd just be
but
these
that was the
thoughts.
point where you were on the fence, you would say.
Oh,
I was like, I didn't even, dude, can we do 2 hugs in one? Let's go. Ethan, I don't care if it's on a shot. Let's go.
He loves when we cut the cameras off. It's fun for him.
I was on the fence about
fence. That was a huggable joke right there.
Yeah,
Right?
thanks, guys.
Nice job.
But yeah.
What would be the ideal job for you?
Dude, being at Austin Country Club
That is
right
it?
now, this
That's it?
given the circumstances, there's nowhere better because I'm out there, I'm like talking to people,
Yeah.
I'm out in the sunshine.
Cool.
I get to just like and people out there, it's like a very it's a high-end club, and the people
Right.
out there are like very wealthy individuals. And they're all weirdos, and they love the fact that I come out like skipping out of the cart barn and I'm asking them weird questions about what their spirit animal is and all this kind of goofy stuff. Like, it's perfect for me.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about your faith.
Yes.
You said a lot of people don't like hearing that it was kind of the new age that led you into. That's happened a lot in our church where, so Ryan and I this morning, it's very funny that you brought that up. I glanced and there's a part in Isaiah where it literally is, I think it's Isaiah 47, where it's just like basically him dismantling astrology 3,000 years ago, or however long ago Isaiah was, 3,000 years probably?
2,700.
2,700 years. There we go. And he did that without the internet. He just knew that. that kind of a practice, forever has been like people seeking something, and it looked different back then than it does now. But we were just kind of talking about, there's biblical stories where it's like God found somebody and met them where they were. And that's really cool. They may not have been looking for him directly or known that's exactly what they're looking for, but on their journey to find truth and find a higher being, he spoke to them through that. But now people hear that and they're like, yeah, cool. So I'm just going to keep kind of doing what I'm doing and find my own way and kind of practice how I want. And then God will meet me, whoever he is and whatever he is, like he'll find me through that. And it'll just be kind of still the DIY kind of faith. But what you did was seeking, and you're just curious, you've never been to church, literally. You didn't grow up with that as a part of your life. God wasn't a part of your life, but you knew there was something out there and you were seeking it. And through that, you found the clarity to say, it's Christ, and I'm putting my faith in him, and not going to call it what I want it to be, but I'm going to call it what it is. In that journey, how have you seen now that coupled with such a presence of mind, not clouded by all the things of the world? How has that grown your relationship with God in that clarity of what you were looking for and who you found?
This whole mission that I've been on of like being offline and all this stuff, I don't think that I chose it. I think that I was called to it in ways that at the beginning I was asking him, I was like, why me? Why would you choose me? Like, pick anyone else, pick somebody, some like tech guy with money who has a runway to be able to do this. And I was like trying to bargain with the master of the universe. I was in a yoga class in January. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm going to starve to death. I'm going to be ostracized. I'm going to die doing this just in a different way that I was dying before. Why me? And it was like, he was telling me like, don't you see I'm giving you a way out? And when I first came to you to get baptized, I don't know if it was February or something. It was in a place of desperation because I was like, I need everything I can get in order to do this journey. And I need to like, I don't know. I was desperate. And that's why I asked you, I was like, Ryan, can we just go into a river or something? And you challenged me. You're like, we could do that. Or you could wait until May, which we did. And I'm glad we did because I was able to do it in a much more like present place, in a less desperate place.
With community, surrounded by people.
My dad flew up.
And sharing your story with thousands of people.
Yes.
This is very cool.
And it has solidified to the point where it's like, the never going back is not just me with the internet. It's like never going back to that like self-guided ways, because I've seen like how much my life has improved since that communication with God I started saying yes to instead of saying no to, even when it was inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient. Quite frankly, I don't want to do any of this. I've been called to do this. And if people can find the glory of God through this story, that's all this matters for. And so I never would have talked or thought like that last summer at all. I never would have called up my dad. Hey, Dad, come up to fly up for my baptism. None of that stuff. Invited my friends who don't go to church and just like come through. So
cool.
That's cool.
That's what's changed.
So powerful, man.
Do you find understanding scripture easier?
I I need it more. There would be times, especially in January.
Ryan's got the Bible right here.
Okay. So Abraham's story.
Yeah.
There was times where I thought that I was going to be homeless in January and February because I couldn't find a job. I was down to like my last dollars. And I was like, if you ask me to be homeless, I'm willing to. I just want you to know I don't want to, but I'm willing to. It's like, I'm willing to take my son and sacrifice him. And he didn't have to, but he was willing to.
Yeah.
And so there are moments like that where I would just like flip open scripture. That would never happen before.
Yeah. I feel like the clarity of mind, a lot of people say like, I open up my Bible and there's just too much going on. It's hard for me. And I just, in this times in my life when I'm more focused in simplifying things.
Yeah.
It's like I'm reading that in color versus watching it in black and white, you know, like it comes to life more for me. So I feel like you maybe have that on steroids.
Maybe like you guys have all of this you guys have a lot of historical context that you're able to draw upon and like contextualize for everybody, including yourself. I don't have that. So sometimes
we got to get you some printed commentaries.
Printed commentaries.
Yeah.
Do
There's
you want
some great commentaries.
I've got some here if you want some.
Yeah, we'll give you a lot of context and stuff that's very helpful.
That'd be great.
Yeah, they've been writing those for hundreds of years. Spurgeon and many others. Brian, would you read us from scripture?
Of course. Psalm 127 is just on my heart. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain. In vain you rise up early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat, for he grants to those he loves sleep. And that picture of you going like, I've tried to be self-guided my entire life and it hasn't worked. And then this invitation to go, I'm going to let the Lord build the house. And then that fear of, if I let the Lord build the house, I'm going to starve is so real.
Yeah.
And like, I've felt that so much in my life in different ways. But that sweet invitation of like, no, unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. To me, that's like on my heart for this entire journey for you, is you're going, I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to not be self-guided. I'm going to let the Lord lead me in all of my steps. And so much of it is so inconvenient in this world because this world is set up to be guided by self.
Yeah.
And what you have done, and it's such a beautiful journey, is you're showing people like, or we could get back to this ancient wisdom and this ancient truth and this ancient way to live. And it's actually how the world at a deeper level is set up. It's how God created the world to work, where we go, all right, God, it's you. You're going to guide this, and I'm going to be here as somebody made in your image, just doing my best to live and exist. And so I don't know if that means anything for you, but Psalm 127, unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. You're like, all this labor was in vain for so long. I'm just going to let the Lord build the house. Is that speaking to you guys at all?
Of course, dude. The house, I was like, the house that I was building, it had all the trappings that the world and told me I should have. I made way more money. I had more comfort. I had more stability, but it was like comfort in something that was so poisonous for me. And at the beginning of this journey, the house looked pretty shabby. And we're still kind of at the beginning. But if we're just starting to see like it's like one of those folks who's they're poor, they're completely poor, but they're happier because they like cherish every little thing that they have.
They have what matters.
That's right.
That's what
they
it
have
feels
what they
like.
need, not all the things that they want. That sometimes are the poison, right? One of the things I respect about how you're going about this is there are people in their convictions or even communities that are technology-less, no internet or whatever that looks like. And I love just, if anyone feels a conviction and they're going to follow that based off scripture, like if it's biblically based, like go for that. But it tends to be separate from the world. Yeah. It kind of keeps people away from the world. It's like we're our own thing and nobody else wants to interact or is allowed to come interact with us. But you are doing this, but in a way that you're still very integrated in the world and community and people and your relationships. And I want to ask you about relationships specifically. We're talking about relationships right now at church. Not even from a romantic sense, but if you have commentary on that, would love to hear it. But how has this changed or reshaped how you view relationships, how you go about relationships, bettered, made it harder?
Yeah, well, I already wasn't using the apps because I had a flip phone for like a year and a half. So that part hasn't changed a whole lot. How has it made it better? I'm more I'm more likely, and I have done, like seeing a woman that I'm attracted to and like going up and talking to her in person.
That's your only shot.
That's my only shot, because it's literally like necessity breeds this like courage.
Yep.
So good.
Necessity
breeds courage.
That's good.
One of the things that apps and Instagram has done is it's taken out the need for courage because you can get there. You can send them a DM.
Yeah.
So necessity breeds courage.
Dang.
Yes.
You know, what's crazy is until about 30, 40 years ago, that was how it always went with dating is you just saw a girl, you had to go ask her out. You had to go talk to her, get to know her. That was your only option, right?
Yeah.
It's only been in the last couple of decades. And here we have all these people with all these relationship questions and struggles and all these things. And again, you kind of just see this correlation with how technology has weakened us in some of like things like courage.
Yeah. I think it's like, back in the day, somebody at church would have set you up. Now a robot is setting you up. It's like, yeah, there's going to be some weird quirks of the code here.
Yeah.
Are we shocked that this hasn't gone
computing
great?
errors do happen. So
but yeah, I do wonder, I'm like, I as far as relationships go, like I don't have a girlfriend or a wife. I would like to find that. But I don't think my dating life has changed that much because I already wasn't doing that.
Okay, well then let's say from like the flip phone.
Yeah. Okay. So if I want to, I texting on a flip phone is really hard.
T9,
and I'm a
baby.
caller.
Yeah.
So I met somebody at a yoga class in December and we traded phone numbers and I called and left a voicemail and no response. And I'm like, I wonder if that would have gone differently if it was a text message.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of question. So
Yeah.
what I think is happening right now, maybe this is a cope, but I think that there's like Greg Larson is a selecting factor. Like there's just my existence is going to weed out a lot of people. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So it'd take a real special woman to be able to deal with this. And I wouldn't expect somebody. Yeah.
Comment below if you want us to set you up with Greg.
Yes.
And
I'm
then
open to it.
We'll find a way to get you in the lobby so he can come talk
In the
to you.
same place.
Yeah, that's
We're
the
not,
thing.
we're not going to use the internet to do this setup, right?
If bonus points if your area code is 512.
Yes.
By bonus points, it means crucial factor. The only way you'll be able to communicate outside of when you're in the same place.
That is true. Like I do like the fact, like, oh, how do people get in touch with you? I'm like, at the country club, at church, or at my apartment. That's it.
Yeah.
The audacity to think that people have the right to get in contact with me. You don't. I'm
Yeah.
gonna see y'all at church. I'm gonna
That's
see the
so
people at
good,
the country
man.
club.
That's an interesting
so
luxury
good.
that you have of in that kind of like the good part of being able to isolate away from some of the things of the world that you talked about earlier. You will never see the comments on this episode.
Yes.
Right.
So you don't have to care if people are like, this guy's insane and like he, whatever, he's so idealistic, whatever. Well, now I've put those in your head. Sorry, but
That's okay.
you don't have to worry about that stuff.
I won't
And
even see
people
the episode.
can't get to you like that don't know you, right? They can't DM you and find that may have no personal relationship with you, may live somewhere far away. They
Yeah.
can't find you
Yeah.
in a way that they can nearly anyone else on earth. So that's kind of a freeing factor. You're like, I just know what I know of today and my friends around me, and
It's true.
you probably have a better sense of identity than most humans on earth right now, I would guess, because it's based
Maybe.
off of true information of real authentic relationships versus synthetic bots
Yes.
commenting on your life and making you feel like less of a
Right.
person.
If any bots want to set me up, no. Well, that I've found that like if I see somebody in person, I have to steward that moment because I don't know when I'm going to see. Like I had a friend who came to my movie night on Saturday who I haven't seen since January.
Yeah.
I have to pull out I'm like, okay, when are you free? We have to set up a next meetup because I don't know when I'm going to see him again. And before, what would have happened? I'd been like, oh, I'll text you. Then I never would have texted him. Yeah.
It forces you also probably to say the things like in the moment
Yeah.
that most of us like. I've noticed this after a good time with somebody, you're kind of like, all right, I'll catch you later. And then you feel like, man, that was awesome. You'll text them later. Like, dude, I just want to say thanks for hanging out. That was so like, but you have to say that in the moment, which carries so much more meaning than the 2 hour later text message to try to speak how you really feel. And especially as guys,
fascinating.
Yeah.
maybe texts are our way to, in some form, say something meaningful to each other. Cause most of the time we don't, but
Yeah.
it maximizes the real human moments in your life.
It's true. Never would have hugged Ryan before.
Yeah, I hugged Ryan maybe once a decade. We've been best friends for like 17 years. What about just friendship in general? Like, what have you learned about community and friends? You know, that's such a hard thing for people right now, is feeling like they have a few people in their corner, that there's some people they can trust, and there's people who really know them, not just the Instagram version of them.
Yeah.
What have you learned about authentic friendships?
Frankly, I've lost touch with a lot of people. Like my friends that don't live here anymore. I think people just don't have stamps, because like I try to write letters and I don't always get a response.
That's so funny.
And so like that sucks. Like that's a big cost to this thing.
Yeah.
And I thought writing letters would be a bigger part of this. It ain't.
Yeah.
I don't write as many letters as I thought. I wind up dropping notes off at my friends' houses.
Okay.
That happens a lot. I love that. I have a route that I have like a cycle that I go through on.
That's cool.
If I have an off night, I'll write like 4 or 5 letters, cycle around, and I'll like drop a note
That's
off
really
at the place.
sweet.
Like, hey, do you want to go to yoga on Tuesday? But like,
you ever mail somebody a note and then put a stamp in there for them to send it back?
Oh,
dude,
return.
self-addressed stamped envelope. I should do that. Like I'm querying an agent.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yes.
Yeah. Take away all their reasons to not write you back.
That's such an obvious, simple. I'm not going to hug you again, but I really want to.
That's good.
That's so
that's
good.
good.
Yeah,
It's brilliant.
man.
Like,
Yeah.
but like the friends that I do see, I see different people more often now. I don't know. I don't notice any like different texture necessarily.
Yeah.
But just the logistics have changed significantly. I used to host a lot of parties. I don't host parties anymore. I used to set up like full on marketing plans for my parties. I'd like create promo videos and all this kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
So great.
Yeah. And I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're costs.
So there's cost to it.
A lot of
What about
costs.
benefits?
The benefits,
Friendship-wise.
friendship wise, I don't know. It's so abstract. I don't know how to fully articulate it, but like I have to steward the moments I have with
Steward
them
the
more
moments.
often, because it's
Yeah.
the collisions are more, they're the less conscious collisions that just happen.
Do you find when you're with friends that they, because you're there, put their phones away more?
I thought, okay, on movie night, I thought about it for a moment, and that was the first time I wondered. I was like, it seems like nobody's really pulling out their phones, except my friend Emily pulled out her phone so she could sign me up for the singles conference on
Nice.
June 13th.
Hey, great promo. Great promo.
6 p.m. on June 13th.
No phone event, by the
Yeah.
So
Trying to get people to focus. No
there you
QR.
go.
No
you're
QR.
gonna
You better not have
thrive.
QR codes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You got to think about that.
That's good. Cool.
Yeah,
You
man.
got any more questions?
Are you talking about the book publicly yet? You feel comfortable?
Oh,
Or
yeah. I talk about it a lot. Yeah.
How's the writing coming? Where are you at in the process?
Oh, so when I started, I thought I was going to do 1 year and I was going to have all these sub quests for each month.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got to month 2, I was like, oh, just existing is challenge and quest enough. Like I don't need to do like improve my vision for a month. Oh, learn the piano for a month.
Yeah.
Just survive, Greg. Let's do it.
Right. Yeah.
And,
Smart.
Thank you. And so I could write a book about the first 6 weeks alone, like
I bet.
finding all the logistics and all the finding a job. But I have a stack. I don't know. It's maybe 250 notes.
Nice.
I think it's taken me 18 years to learn how to write. And I'm not
Yes.
exaggerating. Because
Yes.
like when I look back at these old journals, the things I was keeping track of, like a nonfiction book like this is only as good as the notes that I take while I'm experiencing it.
Right.
Because that creates the ceiling. Keeping track of the conversations, keeping track of the observance, the things that I observe, all that kind of stuff, the realizations. I finally have figured out what to keep track of. Who knows if I'm wrong about this, but I think I finally figured out what to keep track of and how much of it.
Cool.
And I feel like it's an interesting story either way.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm the perfect one to tell it as well. Like I feel like all of my faculties as a writer are like finally coming in. Like I'm seeing things and I'm hearing
Come on.
things and I'm ready to go. Like I think that this could change some lives.
Yes. Yes.
What are the biggest changes you hope? Like if someone listens to this and they're like, well, I'm not going to do what he's doing.
Please
but,
don't. Yeah.
But I do know that I have a social media addiction. My phone is a problem. The internet is this distraction, whatever. You know, I've got some issues and I want to find some solutions to have a healthier life. Inspired by you, who's taken a very extreme approach to that, what would you just say to somebody as a step, as something that could be helpful to them?
I don't even know, Ethan. I truly don't even know. Because the flip phone might be an easy one, but
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd recommend this stuff to anybody necessarily. But there's like pieces of it that you could take. I'm sorry, but I truly don't.
That's
I have
all right.
no idea.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're also in the investigative period of this where,
Yeah.
you know, I think you'll have your findings that you can help articulate to people to digest them that, again, aren't going to maybe take this extreme approach, but that will get to learn from your story. Because I think that's,
Yes.
there are going to be truths that come from the extremes, right? You see that all through like people like the prophets, like we referenced, that they were very extreme people.
That's right.
And they spoke in some harsh ways and they did some things that were counter to what everyone else was doing. And truth came out of that people needed to hear. And so I think if God has called you to something unique, very set apart from how the world operates, then he will speak truths to that. So we look forward to when more things maybe through your learning experience come to say, this is how I think I could help somebody else through a book, through conversations, through jumping back on here a year from now to see where you're at in the journey, you know?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where people are going to see this and whatever I experience, and they're going to be like, oh, I want things that he has. I want like the ease that he's experiencing and like the feeling so much more myself than I ever have.
Yeah.
I don't know. They'll pick and choose whatever they want from it, you know?
Yeah. It's beautiful, man.
Kayla, do you have any last questions?
No, you've just blown all of our minds.
Whoa.
I think what's really cool and what I really respect about you throughout all this is you're not saying everybody should do it.
Right.
Like if you're actually saying like nobody should.
Yeah.
And I think that shows like such humility, and it gives you a lot more respect. Then I think then people also will be open to it because you're not projecting your life onto other people's life. You're just like, you can learn from me if you want.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. And
Thank you.
I respect you, and I've learned a lot, and it's been really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How you feeling over there?
I'm kind of shook. Like,
You need a hug?
no. But I will say, like, I didn't realize this until you said the whole like my muscles have atrophied.
Yeah.
To me, it's specifically the like eye contact. That's something that everybody I feel like here is super intentional with. And it's something that like, it didn't scare me, but like I very much noticed about you. I like whispered something over here a couple times throughout the episode, just kind of like, I do it every time. Like I usually keep the mic kind of away from me because I don't like to talk, but I would say something just kind of in response, like, oh dude, that's crazy. You would immediately look at me like you heard. I'm telling you, somebody could be yelling my name from this distance away and I would not hear it. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. It just makes me kind of wonder, like, that muscle for you is probably much stronger to hear and perceive and listen. Like, I wonder how much of that is just like everyone is so, like, we're in a chair.
Very
now.
interesting.
We become more and more reliant on technology, and it takes more and more of our faculties, and we don't have to develop those things anymore. So here's my conclusion. I think that you have a perspective in the internet, like when it comes to social media, we have different opinions about that, you know, like of how we should go about that. And Ryan operates with it, and I think in a healthy way, and has found a method to be on social media in a way that I think he's not addicted to it, right? I don't use it because I don't think I could handle it very well and have my own opinions. But wherever people land on their personal opinions about these things, I think what we're going to need more and more going into the future is just to hear other perspectives and check ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. And like Sam Altman, they just bought this company called IO. And the guy who runs it, he was like the chief dude at Apple for a while, like designing all the amazing technology. And now they're working on some form of technology to have AI more present with you. What they've said is probably not something with a screen because they want people on screens less, but that there's almost like an AI assistant that's kind of observing everything in your life with you all the time.
Jeez.
That's going to help make your life better. And that there may be truth to that. There may be some improvements that come from something like that. All that to say, good, bad, and ugly, the world is going to continue going that way, where we're going to get more and more like combined with AI and more technology and internet focused. And that's why we're going to need voices. And that is the one good thing I appreciate about like YouTube, that we have a podcast that people can hear your story, that people can use social media. Like I do feel like my responsibility in a way is through our church, with the platform God has given me to share what he's given me to share through our church's account. So I guess I'm complicit in social media in a way. Maybe that's what I think. The Apostle Paul would have been like, put this up on the Church of Corinth's account.
Exactly.
Put this up on the Church of Ephesus account, because that's how I feel. It's
Here's
like,
my password.
I think a platform should have to be earned.
Yeah.
And we live in a time when everybody just has one if they want one.
Yeah.
So to me, Ryan's earned one. So he should have a place where he can share that if he wants to. I see our church as the platform that God has called me to be a part of. Okay, so all that to say, we need to utilize platforms and conversations like this and our viewpoints to help each other keep checking ourselves before we become fully lost in integration with AI and technology that we've lost our humanity. We have atrophied in every way, and we do nothing, and then we don't get out of our houses and go have human relationships. So you may serve as a very extreme version of this for a generation that's very much going to need someone to go, you don't have to do what I'm doing, like Kayla said, in humility, but let me just remind you that there's birds out there to go listen to chirp.
Come on. That's it.
And thanks for being willing to take a touch grass. Thanks for being willing to be obedient to what you heard as a call and believe God's going to continue to call you to, and not try to water it down, but to really go for it, because I'm learning from you, and I think a lot of other people will as well.
If I could share one closing thought.
You must.
I have a lot of people, when I tell them the things that I go through in order to accommodate this life, they say it doesn't seem worth it. They say it seems like so much work. I think the question nobody's asking themselves is the internet worth it? Is everything that you're getting on there worth it?
Oof.
And for me, the answer is no. I bet that I'm not the only one, and nobody else has. If there's anybody else like me, I would love to meet them. Unfortunately, they won't watch this episode, so it'll just have to be like. But the is it worth it question, people are so quick to fire it to me, and yet, whoa, is it worth it for you?
Is it worth it for you?
Dang.
Is it worth it? It's a great
We will
question.
leave that for you to ponder. Was watching this episode worth it? I bet it was.
Yes.
Thank you, Greg.
Greg, great job.
This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we'll be back next
Let's
week.
say we answered the call in this episode.
Let's go.
Let's go.
We're going to talk some big relationship questions in the next couple weeks that are coming up through the series we're doing at church. So come back for that. And maybe today find some time to just disconnect from the internet and see what it feels like. And then see if maybe God speaks something to you about some changes in your life. Inspired by Greg. And now, Greg, let's hug.
Yes, dude, it's happening. Let's go.
There it is. Oh, that felt right.
Beautiful.